just need to write it down, otherwise I will forget. Please rise in body or spirit and sing with me hymn number 1011, Return Again. It is in the teal hymnal, and I believe on the screen.
It goes like this. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again. So the first two words repeat again. So you have return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Now the second part. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. My name is Heather Norby. I am the spiritual life director for this congregation, and I also attend seminary at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. Thank you for joining us on this, it's a little chilly but quite nice January morning. Refreshing, isn't it? If you are here in person, or if you are here on social media or Zoom, welcome. It is so good to be together. Please know that you belong here, whatever your gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, abilities, or theological beliefs. Unitarian Universalism is a loving and affirming faith in which we learn, grow, and co-create the sacred as a community. If you are new here, please know that we would love to get to know you better, so please join us after the service in the social hall for potluck, or if you're online, say hello in the chat feature. Our e-newsletter is published every Wednesday, and it is the main source of information for UUCO. Be sure to sign up and read all about this happening community. Printed copies are available, and there's one posted on our hallway bulletin board. I'd like to lift up a few items from our newsletter that serve our mission statement of love plus connection equals transformation. 'Tis the season still for increased virus activity. I do believe transmission numbers are up for both the flu and COVID, or at least it seems that way. I'm just getting over the flu myself, and I know there's a couple members who are dealing with COVID in the house. So don't be shy about wearing those masks so that we can keep each other healthy. I know mask wearing is not a popular trend here in Florida, but it's okay to go ahead and be the weirdos that care about the health of community members. Yeah. I mean, UUs are known to be a little weird anyway. So, that being said, this Wednesday, January 11th, I have scheduled dinner worship. And while I don't want to cancel eating together, I do want to be sure that we are smart about it. So I'm looking for feedback from those of you who want to attend on what would make you feel comfortable and safe so we can continue to gather and eat together. I want to say a big thank you to the people that have been just jumping in and helping out. We've got Jason Beadlow back in the tech room. Thank you, Jason. I do believe Jason also helped at First Friday with Ambra and Petra and Sarah. And of course, Sarah Mix has also been jumping in and helping out. We really appreciate all these people to help fill in the gaps because, of course, Brandon is moving to Virginia. And Brandon did a lot. He's just sitting here enjoying the service today, and that's what we're going to let him do until he moves. But as anyone who's been around long enough knows, Brandon certainly did many, many, many things. And so a lot is being left undone. And also Justin has been in the hospital, although they are now in rehab and going home on Friday. And you might possibly see them next Sunday. So keep your fingers crossed. So thank you, Jason, back there in the tech room. I really appreciate all that you've done. Next Saturday, we are having a book fair from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Gail is in charge of that, and she has more information, but I know that we're going to have some great titles from Skinner House Publishing and Beacon Press. Those are both Unitarian Universalist publishers, and we'll have lots of new reading material. It'll be a great chance for you to come and find out what the hot topics in Unitarian Universalism are, and to engage in some of that, and of course to raise money for UUCL. So see Gal if you want more information. Next Sunday's worship service will be a multi-generational service. It means the kids will stay with us. It'll be a little more active than usual, but we'll be preparing for the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade, which is the following Saturday, the 21st. We have been participating in the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade here in Lakeland for, I don't know, Keno, at least 30 years? Yeah. So we want to keep that tradition going. All ages are invited to march with us. I think we'll have a vehicle if you have a hard time walking. We do have a vehicle, but otherwise we do march the whole thing. So please plan on joining us on Saturday the 21st. For that, I think we'll meet around 11 a.m., but Helen is leading that. 10? Okay. There'll be information in the newsletter. Also, we had scheduled newcomers classes for this Sunday. They're called Starting Point, and it's a place for people who are new to start their journey into Unitarian Universalism and get to know other people, and for us to get to know them. Unfortunately, Faisal's household is sick, and so we had to postpone that till next Sunday. We're still planning on doing at least the first one at 9:45 in the morning. I'm sorry, Kat and Nick. Because I know people with kids, it's a little hard to get here early. We're doing the best we can to accommodate everyone, so just please keep an eye on the newsletter to keep up to date on that. And if you're new and you'd like to join the class and haven't told me already, please do so. I am going to change my office hours. Instead of Tuesdays, I'm going to come in on Thursdays. That way I'm working Wednesday to Sunday, and then I have Monday and Tuesday off. Or, hypothetically, I have Monday and Tuesday off. We're going to give that a try and see how that goes. So I won't be here on Tuesdays, but I will be here on Thursdays and probably Wednesdays as well. And I would like to invite Jeanette up because she's been busy. Busy doing what, Jeanette?
30 seconds on church finances.
Okay.
I'm Jeanette Manning, your church bookkeeper. We've just finished half of our fiscal year that started July 1st. So what we have on here, this is a summarized version of what we, the Finance Committee, provides to your Board of Trustees each month. We have the year-to-date actual column, that's 6 months of income and expense, and the annual budget. So you'll see halfway down the total income budget, $98,623. Total expense at the bottom, Budget, $98,623, a balanced budget. We hope. We always hope. We start with the expenses that we need, that this church needs to provide its mission. The staffing is our main expense. Our program budgets are in there, the worship and social justice and so on. And then we hope we get income to cover that. The first category, the biggest category of income is contributions, and that is you and me when we pay our pledges, contributing, plus the Sunday collection plate. That's what really keeps this church going. So if you want any details behind this, I can get you that. Here's my contact info. Also, this is fascinating stuff, church budgeting. It's actually rewarding. So if you want to join the finance committee, either occasionally or every month, as your budget, as your time allows, contact me or my boss, the treasurer, Justin Neal. 30 seconds?
May I ask a question?
Nope.
Can you ask after church, please, Judy? Thank you. She swore to 30 seconds only. Good job, Jeanette. For those of you that don't know, we fully fund ourselves. We do not get money from the association. We support ourselves. We are a do-it-yourself church. That's how Unitarian Universalism works. Okay. So this month, we will be journeying on a path of finding our center. But what does that mean? What is our center? How do we even know? Breathe in for a moment with me. And out. And let us consider a few things that we might find at our centers. First, envision the center of yourself. Is there an actual physical place in your body that you feel is your center? Or is it a nebulous place in your mind or your soul? Envision this center and ask yourself, what do you find? What centers you, or what do you center? Maybe it is your values. Maybe at your center is a moral compass, asking you to pay attention to it as you journey through life. Maybe at your center is a truth, something that you believe about the world and your place in it. Maybe it is this truth that guides your actions. My hopes for all of you is that no matter where and how and what you envision your center to be, that love is what you find there. A great big kind of love that lets you know that you are loved, and so is everyone else. Our chalice lighting words were written by the Reverend Scott Tyler, and they're called Steadied by Each Other. Pulled in many directions by the demands of our days, we light this chalice to remind us of the still point deep inside, made unsteady by the winds of unpredictable paths. We light this chalice to remember the shelter of each other, looking, longing for lights that lead us back to our truest selves. We kindle this chalice to illuminate the faces of friends and sacred companions, recalling once again that we find our way through the willingness to take each other's hand. In the tradition of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we will light our chalice. Brandon, would you please light our chalice today? Thank you. We will sing and sign Spirit of Life, hymn number 123.
Spirit of life, come unto me.
like to invite the children, or all those young at heart, to come up for a story. Oops. Now, try this on the Kindle today, as both Melissa and I can't seem to find the book. All right, hi, how are ya? Oh, it's good to see you. It feels like it's been a few weeks. Two? It's been two? Yeah. All right. Keisha, could you hand them a stone, please? We're going to give you something a little bit special to hold during the story today. Do you know what these stones are for? No? These are the stones that we use when we do joys and sorrows. What do you think? Look at it. What does it look like? A stone? What kind of stone? Is it boring? Is it a boring stone? What? It's sparkly. Yeah, it's sparkly. And shiny. Shiny. Yeah, all right. You hold on to that stone while I read the story, okay? Okay, thank you. He's so cooperative. I'm going to read a story that's called Old Turtle and the Broken Truth. Have you heard that story before? You have? Cool. Once, in a beautiful faraway land that was somehow not so very far. Ooh. A land where every stone was a teacher and every breeze a language, where every lake was a mirror and every ladder, or every tree a ladder to the stars. You see that? I see the trees there, but it's a big, open, vast land. Into this far and lovely land there fell a truth. It streaked down from the stars, trailing a tail as long as the sky. Where's it coming from? Here's the thing. As it fell, it broke. One of the pieces blazed off through the night sky, and the other fell to earth in the beautiful land. In the morning, Crow found the fallen piece. It seemed to be a sort of stone, shiny and pleasing to the eye. You look like your stone? No? Maybe? Yeah, maybe. He picked it up. This is a lovely truth, said Crow. I will keep it. And he carried it away. But after he had held it for a while and examined it closely, Crow said, "This truth does not feel quite right. A part of it is missing. I will look for a whole one." He flew off and he dropped it to the ground. Oops. Whoops. Yeah, electronic books. Dropped it to the ground. Other creatures who liked shiny things soon noticed the truth as well. Fox, coyote, raccoon each picked it up and carried it a while. But they too found that it had rough edges and was difficult to carry. And its sparkle soon lost its appeal. "We do not need this broken truth," they said. "We will find a whole one." Butterfly and Bear also discovered the truth, drawn by its sweetness. But each found that it left Sorry. But each found that it left a bitter taste after all. There's something missing in this truth, they thought, and they left it alone. After a while, none of the creatures even noticed the broken truth anymore, and it lay on the ground not see the mirror beauty in the lakes or the ladders to the stars, but saw only their sparkling truth. And for them, it was enough. And they called it the truth. The truth made the people feel good and proud and strong, but soon they also began to feel fear and even anger toward those who were not like themselves and did not share their truth. The other beings and other people of the lovely land seemed less and less important, and the language of the breezes was hardly ever heard anymore. Time passed, and other people said, "We must have this great truth for ourselves, for with it comes happiness and power." Many battles were fought, and the broken truth was won and lost over and over again. But such was its power and beauty that no one ever doubted it, and when they were without it, they felt a great emptiness where their truth had been. The stones and trees suffered, the breezes and waters suffered, and the animals and the earth, and most of all, the people suffered. Imagine fighting over your drum stone. That seemed like a good thing to do? Yeah. Finally, the animals went to Old Turtle, ancient and wise as the mountains and seas themselves. Crow and fox went, coyote went, raccoon, butterfly, bear, and many others. All went to see Old Turtle. This truth the people quarrel over, they said. We have all held it ourselves. It is broken and does not work. Please tell the people. I'm sorry, answered Old Turtle, but the people will not listen. They are not yet ready. And the suffering continued. Until one day, a little girl came to find Old Turtle. She had traveled very far, had crossed the mountains of imagining and the river of wondering why, had found her way through the forest of finding out. And when she had grown tired, she had ridden on the backs of animals or the wings of birds, and they had helped her find her way. Finally, they came to a great hill in the very center of the world. From there, the little girl thought she had never seen so far or seen so much beauty. But when she saw Old Turtle, she could hardly speak. She simply looked with eyes full of wonder. "Why have you come so far to find me, little one?" asked Old Turtle. Her voice rumbled like faraway thunder, but was soft as the breeze through a caterpillar's whiskers. Caterpillars have whiskers? I wanted to ask a question, answered the little girl. Where I live, the earth is sore and people are suffering. Battles are fought over and over again. People say it has always been this way and will never change. Can it change, Old Turtle? Can we make it change? Old Turtle spoke. "The world you describe is not the world that has always been, little one." Then Old Turtle told of how the people had found the broken truth and the suffering it had caused. "It is because it is so close to a great whole truth that it has such beauty, and that the people love it so," said Old Turtle. "It is the lost portion of that broken truth that the people need if the world is to be made whole again." "Well, where is this missing piece?" asked the little girl. "Can we put the truth back together again?" "First, my child," said Old Turtle, "remember that there are truths all around us and within us. They twinkle in the night sky and bloom upon the earth. They fall upon us every day, silent as the snow and gentle as the rain. The people, clutching their one truth, forget that it is a part of all the small and lovely truths of life. They no longer see these truths, no longer hear them. But perhaps, little one, you can." "I'll try," said the little girl. And she thought once more of her long journey. She looked upon all the beauty that surrounded her, from the far hills to the flowers beneath her feet. She saw the movement of clouds and the soaring of birds and the dancing of light upon the green and living earth. She heard the whispering of a breeze. And gradually a feeling came over her, as though all the world were made of truths, as if the world had been made just for her and she had been made for it. And she felt a secret smile somewhere deep inside, and thought that perhaps she Only then will the people know that every person, every being is important, and that the world was made for each one of us. For a long time then, the two friends were quiet, high in their hill in the very center of the world. And in her heart, the little girl thought she could see other people in other beautiful lands, people with their own ways, their own truths, people different from her own, but still somehow the people. Finally, the little girl asked one more question. Old Turtle, how will the people learn these things? By seeking out those small and simple truths all around them, said Old Turtle. By listening once more to the language of breezes, by learning lessons from stones and animals and trees and stars, even turtles, she chuckled, and little girls. Now, little one, it is time for you to go, to return to your people and tell them what you have seen and learned, and to help them mend their broken truth. Take this with you, said Old Turtle, as she placed something in the little girl's hand. I've saved it for a very long time, for someone just like you. The little girl looked at what Old Turtle had given her. It was a stone, this mysterious, beautiful stone. It was lovely to touch, and it made her feel good to hold it. She squeezed it tightly and tucked it away for her journey. Thank you, Old Turtle, she said, and hugged her friend's great leathery neck, and then she started home. Once more, she traveled the forest of finding out, crossed the river of wondering why, and the mountains of imagining. Crow led the way, and again when the little girl grew tired, all her animal friends helped. She sometimes touched the stone Old Turtle had given her to renew her strength, and it took a long time, yet almost no time at all. And she was home. But it had been a very long journey, and those who take great journeys of the heart are changed. The people did not recognize her, and when she spoke, they did not understand. She told them of her journey, but the people could not follow her words. She spoke of a world made of small and gentle truths, of all the peoples being one people, but they could not catch her meaning. She explained about the broken truth and the need to make it whole, but the people did not believe her and could not understand. Finally, Crow, seeing all that had happened, flew to the place high above the village where the great truth was kept, in a place where all could see it. He cawed and cawed in his loudest voice, and suddenly the little girl knew what to do. She climbed to the high place herself. She took Old Turtle's stone from her pocket and carefully added the missing piece to the old broken one. So now we invite all of you up to the chalice table to drop a stone representing your shiny piece of the truth in the bowl of water. Sometimes those truths look like joy, and sometimes they hold much sorrow. But whatever it is for you today, when we join together with others, it looks like love. We have gold stones for joy, white stones for concern, and blue stones for your sorrows. If you are on Zoom, we will say your name and drop a pebble for you so we all know that we are together and connected. Thank you. Put a stone in for Justin, for Nancy and Tom, and for Vaisal. Thank you. Here we are, together, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood on the south side of town. We join together in this little church building that sits next to a beautiful cluster of tall, longleaf pine trees. This is the only Unitarian Universalist church in all of Polk County. Here, in this sanctuary that was built by members of this UUCL community some 40 years ago, we find ourselves as a community that seeks truth, creates meaning, and finds purpose. We have a mission statement that guides us. Love plus connection equals transformation. We arrived at this because just a few years ago, we worked together to discern what our shared values were. In other words, what values resonated so deeply at the centers of each of us that we could pull them out and center them as the purpose of this community. We engaged in deep reflection as a community, and the values projected back to us were love, connection, and transformation. And so this mission statement sits at the center of this UUCL community. But its purpose is not to just define who we are, making us feel at peace with the world just because we have such altruistic values, as if just having them exempts us from any sort of wrongdoing and makes us good people. Indeed, being centered means allowing for that center to manifest in the decisions we make and the actions we take. Our center is what guides us in the ways we want to be in the world, so that we may shape it towards good. I especially appreciate the words that have been written to introduce this month's theme, Finding Our Center, by the publishers of the Soul Matters resource materials. Soul Matters, led by the Reverend Scott Tyler, is an independent Unitarian Universalist business that provides worship and programming resources to UU congregations. We use their materials for worship and for our small group ministry. So I'd like to read to you the introduction to this month's small group packet. They write, "When we talk of finding our center, it's natural for calm and rest to be the first things that come to mind." And indeed, that's where we started last week, if you remember. Who would expect anything different? After all, the need for calm is everywhere we look. So many of us are tired. We're overworked, overbusy, overcommitted, overly scared. We are often so weighed down by responsibility and worry that it only takes one drop of something unexpected to tip us over. So yes, we long for rest. Yes, we want the swirl to stop. And yet, helping us find peace and calm is not the only work found on this path of finding our center. As our faith reminds us, being a centered person often involves the opposite of keeping things calm. In order to move toward a balance of justice, we have to upset the current state of things. Oppressive systems need to be challenged and toppled. And to accomplish that, we need to sacrifice calm and comfort, including our own. We need to remember that achieving a balance of equality requires us to be purposefully off balance and out of step with our culture. Or as Martin Luther King Jr. said, we need people who are maladjusted to the way things are. Add all this up and suddenly our center appears to be a much richer place than is often recognized. It's not simply a place of peace and calm, it's also a place of being pushed and launched. What you hear in this deep space within is not just the whisper of rest and breathe, but also take a deep breath and jump. We encounter an invitation there, not just relaxation. It's a still point, yes, but a still point upon which we pivot and turn to something new. So as we try to make sense of finding our center this month, it's fine to pull up the image of the Buddha sitting peacefully under a tree, but we can't let that overshadow the image of a diver balancing way up there on her diving board, pausing to regain her composure and courage so she can leap and go all in. Maybe in the end, instead of only asking each other, "Are you centered these days?" we need to ask, where is your center sending you these days? And where is your center calling you to go? I ask you to please rise in body or spirit, and let us reflect on this by singing together hymn number 83, which can be found in your gray hymnal, or on the screens behind me.
The tune sounds like this.
saying something, sometimes. Love, that's right. Love plus connection equals transformation. It's our reflection in the mirror. It's our diving board. It's how we move through the winds of eternity. And it guides us in how to move forward in a way that brings more justice into the world. But, and this is essential, our mission statement is how we move as a symphony and not just as independent instruments of peace. What we learned from the story of Old Turtle is that each of us alone only has a small part of the truth. And so we come together here in this place, tucked away in this quiet neighborhood on the south side of Lakeland. We join our truths together in this little church building that sits next to a beautiful cluster of tall, long-leaf pine trees. Here in this sanctuary, we find ourselves as a community that seeks truth, creates meaning, and finds purpose. But there's something that makes us, as Unitarian Universalists, very different from other churches and other religions. And that is that we don't all believe the same things. And I don't stand up here as a religious authority and tell you what to believe. I'm not like the man in the Old Turtle story who had only one shiny piece of the truth. In Unitarian Universalism, we say that revelation is continuous. That means that truth is always being revealed to us in new ways, and that we can change our mind about what we believe and what we don't believe. And one of the ways we do that is by listening to and learning from each other. And so in Unitarian Universalism, holding different truths is not just about tolerating one another and accepting that others believe something different. Rather, it is about letting the truths of others change us. And it is about trusting others enough that we ourselves may be open and vulnerable, offering our own truths from the very center of ourselves so that others may be changed by us. We need each other's truths, each other's stories and experiences and perspectives. Otherwise, we become the victims of a self-worshiping kind of individualism and self-delusion. And such things do not make a church. They make chaos, and they create a resistance to growth. Love plus connection equals transformation. I am so grateful that that is at the center of our church community. Together, we can create an ever-flowing, continuously revealed, interdependently created theology that dynamically exists at our center. That is a beautiful aspiration that I invite each and every one of you into. And as it turns out, there is a less wordy name for this, or a less wordy name for what it is that encompasses not only this kind of theology building, but also community building, and that is shared ministry. Shared ministry is the thing that we are propelled into when we are centered in our shared values and mission statement. Shared ministry is the context in which we operate. It determines our culture, structure, and system of power. And what is really interesting about our specific church here in Lakeland is that the spirit of shared ministry has been here since the beginning. This Lakeland congregation officially formed in 1955 as a fellowship. A fellowship was a small group of people without a minister who wanted to form a Unitarian church. Within Unitarian Universalism, our church was a part of what was known as the Fellowship Movement, which was a unique growth strategy implemented by the American Unitarian Association in the 1940s. According to Holly Ulbrich, who wrote a book on the subject, Florida has 43 Unitarian Universalist congregations. 17 of those 43 congregations are products of the Fellowship Movement, and this Lakeland congregation is one of those 17. The Lake Region Unitarian Fellowship, that was our original name, initially met each Sunday afternoon in the Danforth Chapel at Florida Southern College. The group's founding vision was, love is the spirit of this fellowship and service is its law. In freedom of truth, we unite for the worship of God and the service of humanity. I hear the roots of love plus connection equals transformation in that. Do you? Our founding Lakeland group was decidedly not theist or humanist, as it was discerned that they could not afford to be extreme in either direction. It is interesting to note that, according to my UU history professor, this was unique in fellowship churches, as most were decidedly humanist. So I certainly appreciate that the wisdom of Old Turtle was strong amongst our founding members. Initially, the fellowship thought that they would soon hire a minister and become a proper congregation. However, it was several years before even a part-time minister was hired. In the meantime, however, a culture of shared ministry was being shaped, and it was primarily being nurtured by an incredible woman who came to this Lakeland Fellowship in 1959. Her name was Cleo E. Thomas. They called her Tommy. Tommy was 71 years old when she arrived here, but I have read through pages and pages of her notes and board reports in our archives, and I do believe she had the energy of a 21-year-old. Tommy brought an immense amount of love and vigor to this congregation. It was Tommy who found this property here on Troy Avenue in 1960, and it was Tommy who was able to convince the fellowship that they should buy it. Tommy had a vision for this community and the determination to make it happen. She connected people to one another, and she connected the fellowship to the community surrounding it, generating relationships that fueled people's lives. To honor her legacy, we give out an award each year in her name. It's called the Tommy Award. It's given to people in the community who do great social justice work. You can view the awardees on the plaques in the social hall. Cleo Thomas shaped the transformation of this community, and she shaped it towards a culture of shared ministry. Besides her seemingly endless energy, what was her secret to success? How did Tommy become such an effective leader to this congregation? Well, you see, a shared ministry is about partnership. Shared ministry is about powering with people instead of powering over them. The approach of shared ministry says that we are together in this work of transforming ourselves and of transforming this world. I assert that at the center of Tommy's being was contained this knowledge. Tommy had a vision that centered the values of love, community, and connection. Her approach to ministry was egalitarian and collaborative. But yet, Tommy was not a professional minister. The only job title she officially held was executive secretary. I argue that this title was ill-fitting and did not encompass the work that she did to facilitate a shared ministry within this fellowship. Tommy was well respected, and most importantly, she was trusted. She was also a take-charge kind of person, yet her approach was one of humility and co-creation. Our UUCL archives, held in the Lakeland Public Library, contain pages of reports from Tommy in which she was meticulously transparent, recording all the details of her contributions, her conversations, her thoughts, her hopes and aspirations, and even her emotions around all of these things. We also see in these notes that she was trying to gather the opinions and ideas of others by inviting them in. Tommy was a coach, a mentor, a source of empowerment and enrichment for the congregation's ministries. She seemed to implicitly understand that the only way forward was through the sharing of responsibility for the fellowship by the members of the fellowship. She was laying down the foundations for the patterns of shared ministry to emerge. Tommy's notes end in 1975 with a beautiful wondering about the future. She pondered, with a sizable savings account and a growing of the younger generation, what does the future hold? Will we build that dreamed of church close to the tall pines? Only the future can write this chapter. Tommy passed away in July of 1985 at the age of 97. So here we sit in the sanctuary that Tommy had dreamed about. We are writing the future chapters, and we have the privilege to do so because this congregation has had a strong history of shared ministry, of connecting our centers together to find bigger truths, and of creating a community together. We sit here because at the center of this community has always been the values of love, connection, and transformation to guide us. So today, I invite each and every one of you to honor this history by joining us in centering these values so that we can continue to nurture a culture of shared ministry. I invite you to not just volunteer as an individual, but as Gay Webb of the UU Church in Brazos Valley, Texas writes, I invite you to work collaboratively in covenant with mutual trust and support toward a common vision, a set of goals, and a legacy. After all, our UU principles begin with the words, we covenant to affirm and promote. And our sources end with, we enter into this covenant promising to one another our mutual trust and support. Shared ministry is a process that is one of learning for laity, that's all of you, and for religious professionals, that's me. Shared ministry encourages the whole congregation to become involved in the learning and growth required of all of us. So I'm going to ask you to reflect for just a few moments. Do you have note cards and pens? If you don't, you can raise your hand and Dorothy will get you a note card and pen. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine your center. What is there that you want to share with this congregation as a part of entering into a shared ministry? Some of you have been around here a while and are already doing so much. Perhaps this is a time for you to recenter and make sure that what you are doing is collaborative and serves our mission statement. Some of you have been here only a short amount of time, but are perhaps looking for that thing that the still small voice in the center of your being is calling you to. Do you know what it is that you desire to contribute here? In what ways would you like to collaborate with others and to help shape the ministry of this church? How can you serve our mission statement of love plus connection equals transformation? Some of you have just arrived to this church. Welcome. You may not know us very well, and you may not have any idea where you might fit in, and that's okay. Think about what pulled you here to this place. What are you searching for? In what ways are you hoping to connect with others and offer your gifts? I'm going to ask you to write down a simple answer to these questions on your note cards so that I know how you are called by your center to dive into this shared ministry. You can write your name down if you want to, but you don't have to. None of this is written in stone. It's not a test or a term paper. It's just some brainstorming. And it might change, of course. But when you are able to put words to the ways in which you can connect your truth to that of others in this place, then I might know better how to continue to nurture this shared ministry of ours. So I will give you some time for reflection as the choir sings, and then we will collect the cards as we take up our offering.
Deep inside all, I hear you call, in dark and rain, star
So we now ask that you share the truth, what you wrote on your card, and the abundance of your center, along with your treasures. We each sustain this community when we give. We teach one another, we learn from each other, and then each of us and the world are transformed in the process. So the ushers will now pass the plates, and you can put your cards in, and of course your offering. And please know that you can also give on our PayPal link. Thank you. Although I was just one voice up here today, do not be deceived. When I sit down to write my message, I picture each one of you. When I stand up here to deliver my message, I see each one of you. As the spiritual leader of this community, I don't gaze only at my own reflection in the mirror, arriving here to pontificate upon only my own theology. Rather, I strive to gaze at all of us together in the mirror, to know what is reflected back as we co-create the sacred as a community. Here in this little church next to the tall pines, you are invited to minister with me, to find your center so that you know how it will lead you forward. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are a blessing. Before we extinguish our chalice, John Hughes would like to share something with you. And then we'll extinguish, we'll sing, and we'll go to potluck.
Thank you. Everybody can probably hear me. I brought sweet bread, which is known as the Rosca de Reyes, bread of the kings. On January 6th, the Day of the Kings, is celebrated within the Latin community as the Christmas. It's where the gifts are exchanged. This came from Mega Mercado, which is on Wabash and George Jenkins. It used to be right across from Publix. It used to be a public store in there. And years ago, Publix determined that they could not make any money off that store. That area was being depressed. And it's gone through several transformations. Now it is kind of the center of the Latin community. The market itself is got everything you want, and fruits and everything, particularly with the Latin flavor to it. We stood in line there for a while. I mean, it's very, very popular. We were about 25 people waiting to check out. But to say a little bit more about the bread, it's a traditional sweet bread, and you may find plastic Jesus hiding inside the bread. The candy fruits represent the gifts of the kings to Jesus. And if you get the Jesus tradition in the bread, it's a tradition that you host the next feast, which is the Feast of the Candles, Candelaria, February 3rd. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. forward to this every year because, yes, we would like the person that gets the baby to host another feast, right? That'll get you involved. Brandon, would you extinguish the chalice with me? We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please rise in body or spirit and sing with me one more song from our teal hymnal, 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Just be aware this is 3 pagers, so you got to flip back and forth a little bit. It goes like this.